Have you ever felt like certain numbers keep following you? You wake up and see 11:11 on the clock, you glance at a receipt and the total is $22.22. You get an important call from a number that ends in 777. At first, you shrug it off. Coincidence, right? But then it happens again and again, until one day you start to wonder, what if these numbers are trying to tell me something? You're not alone in this feeling. The greatest minds in history, Plato, Pythagoras, Jung, Nietzsche, all knew that numbers are more than just symbols for counting. They are patterns that shape reality itself. And once you understand their meaning, you'll never look at life the same way again. But before we dive in, let me ask you something. What if your entire life has been nudging you toward a hidden truth and you've been too distracted to notice? Stay with me, because by the end of this, you'll either dismiss what I'm saying as nonsense, or you'll wake up to a truth so profound it will change how you see reality forever.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound insights.
Imagine a man lost in the wilderness. He has no map, no compass, just the stars above him. At first, he wanders aimlessly, but then he starts to notice something. Certain stars align at specific times, pointing him toward a direction. He follows them, and eventually they lead him home. Now, replace those stars with repeating numbers. They are the universe's way of guiding you, but most people ignore them. They assume life is random, that their experiences are just a chaotic mess with no deeper meaning. But the greatest philosophers knew better. They knew that patterns, especially numerical ones, are the fingerprints of something greater. Take Pythagoras, the ancient Greek philosopher. He wasn't just a mathematician, he was a mystic. He believed that numbers are the foundation of the universe. According to him, everything, music, nature, even the human soul, follows numerical harmony. He taught that certain numbers hold special power, acting as cosmic signals. And then there's Carl Jung, the legendary psychologist. He introduced the concept of synchronicity, meaningful coincidences that seem too perfect to be chance. He believed that when you see repeating numbers, it's not random, it's a message from the collective unconscious, the hidden realm where all human experiences and archetypes are connected. Think about that. What if every time you see 1111 or 333 or 777, it's not just a coincidence? What if it's a sign that you're on the right path, or a warning that you're not paying attention? Let's test this. Think about a time in your life when you were at a crossroads. Maybe you had to make a big decision, whether to stay in a relationship, quit a job, take a risk. Did you notice certain numbers appearing around that time? If you did, ask yourself, what was the universe trying to tell me? Because here's the scary part. Most people ignore the signs until it's too late. Let me tell you a story. There was once a man who kept seeing the number 444 everywhere, on license plates, on receipts, even in his dreams. He looked it up and found that in numerology, 444 means stability, protection, and foundation. It often appears when someone is being guided toward a major life change. But he ignored it. He told himself it was just a coincidence. Then, one night, he had a dream. In the dream, he was standing at the edge of a bridge. The number 444 was glowing in the sky. A voice whispered, "Trust the path, you need to leave." When he woke up, he felt uneasy, but still he ignored it. A week later, the company he worked for suddenly collapsed. People lost their jobs overnight. He was devastated. But then he remembered something. He had been thinking about leaving that job for months. He had ideas for a business, but fear held him back. And then it hit him. The numbers had been warning him. They had been urging him to prepare for change. But he didn't listen. How many times have you ignored your own signs? The problem is, most of us are so consumed by distractions, our phones, social media, endless stress, that we don't see the patterns unfolding right in front of us. But once you start paying attention, it's like the universe comes alive. Numbers have energy. They are not just symbols, they are vibrations. And different numbers carry different meanings. 111, the number of new beginnings. If you see this, it means your thoughts are manifesting rapidly. Be careful what you focus on. 222, balance, alignment, partnerships. If this number keeps appearing, it's telling you to trust the process and have patience. 333, creativity, growth, divine guidance. This number often appears when you're being called to step into your power. 444, protection and stability, a sign that you are being guided and supported even if you feel lost. 585, massive change is coming, whether you like it or not, transformation is on the horizon. 777, spiritual awakening, a sign that you are on the right path and that something bigger than you is at play. 888, abundance, success, financial blessings. If you see this, it's a sign that rewards are coming. 999, 9 completion, the end of a cycle. It's time to let go and prepare for something new. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. Is this just superstition? Let me challenge that. What if I told you that some of the most successful people in history, Nikola Tesla, Steve Jobs, even Einstein, were obsessed with numbers and patterns? Tesla famously said, "If you only knew the magnificence of 3, 6, and 9, you would have the key to the universe." Why did he say that? Because he understood something most people don't. Numbers are the building blocks of reality. Think of the Fibonacci sequence, the mathematical pattern found in galaxies, hurricanes, even the human body. Or sacred geometry, patterns like the flower of life, which ancient civilizations believed contained the blueprint of existence itself. Numbers are not random. They are the language of the universe, and when you start seeing them repeat in your life, it's not an accident, it's a message. But here's the real question, are you paying attention? Because here's the harsh truth. Life is constantly speaking to you, but if you're too distracted, too skeptical, too afraid to listen, you will miss the signs. And when you miss the signs, you miss opportunities, you stay stuck. You repeat the same mistakes over and over, wondering why nothing ever changes. But the moment you open your eyes, the moment you start recognizing the patterns, you gain a power most people will never have. So let me ask you again, what if your entire life has been nudging you toward a hidden truth and you've been too distracted to notice? Because once you start to see the patterns, you'll never be able to unsee them. And that's where things get really interesting. Everywhere you look, numbers are there. They are woven into the fabric of reality, appearing in nature, architecture, music, and even human behavior. But most people see numbers only as tools for measurement, not as symbols carrying deeper meaning. Yet, if you take a step back and observe the world with fresh eyes, you'll realize that numbers are not just mathematical abstractions. They are signals guiding you towards something greater. The ancients understood this. They believed that numbers were sacred, that they held the key to unlocking the mysteries of existence. Consider how nature itself is structured around numbers. The Fibonacci sequence appears in the spirals of galaxies, the arrangement of sunflower seeds, and the branching of trees. Why does this pattern repeat across the universe? Is it mere coincidence, or is it evidence of an underlying intelligence? Then there's the golden ratio, 1.618, a number that defines aesthetic perfection and appears in everything from the Parthenon to the Mona Lisa. Why does the human brain perceive this ratio as inherently beautiful? These patterns are not random. They suggest that numbers are more than just human constructs. They are embedded in the very foundation of reality. Let's go deeper. If numbers shape nature, could they also shape human consciousness? If certain numerical patterns repeat in your life, could they be messages, pushing you toward a greater understanding of yourself and your purpose? Jung believed that the human mind is tuned to patterns, that we are constantly seeking meaning in the chaos. His theory of synchronicity suggests that when we notice repeating numbers, it's not just our brains playing tricks on us. It's reality itself communicating in a language beyond words. Think about it. Have you ever had a moment where everything seemed to align perfectly? A time when you met exactly the right person at the right moment, or when a decision you made felt almost predestined? What if these experiences weren't just luck? What if repeating numbers are confirmation that you are in sync with something much bigger than yourself? Some people dismiss this as superstition, but ask yourself, if numbers are fundamental to the universe, wouldn't it make sense that they also influence our personal experiences? Let's take a closer look at how repeating numbers show up in critical moments of life. Many people report seeing 1111 during times of personal transformation. This number is often associated with awakening, a shift in consciousness, a moment when the universe is trying to get your attention. If you keep seeing 1111, it could mean that your thoughts are manifesting faster than usual. It could be a sign that you need to focus on your intentions, because what you think about now has the power to shape your future. Then there's 555, a number that many people start noticing when they're about to go through a major life change. If you see this number repeatedly, it could be a signal that the universe is preparing you for something new. It's often a warning that resistance to change will only bring struggle. The message is clear: let go and trust the process. But how many of us truly listen to these signs? How often do we ignore the warnings, only to find ourselves regretting it later? Have you ever had a gut feeling about something, only to brush it aside, convinced that you were just being irrational? Later, when things went wrong, you probably looked back and thought, I knew it. I should have trusted myself. What if repeating numbers are that same inner knowing, but expressed in a different way? What if they are a way for the universe to reinforce your intuition? Ancient cultures did not ignore numbers, they revered them. In Egypt, numbers were considered divine forces. In China, the I Ching used numerical patterns to predict the flow of energy in the universe. In Hinduism, Vedic mathematics was not just about calculation, it was a spiritual practice. Even the Bible is filled with numerical codes, with numbers like 7 and 40 appearing repeatedly in stories of transformation and divine intervention. The message is clear: numbers are not random, they hold power. But here's the problem: modern society has trained us to ignore the unseen. We are taught to value only what we can measure and prove scientifically. We dismiss intuition, synchronicity, and symbolism as irrational. But what if we've been conditioned to ignore one of the most profound ways the universe speaks to us? What if, by dismissing these signs, we are cutting ourselves off from deeper wisdom? Imagine how different your life would be if you paid attention to these signals. What if every time you saw a repeating number, you stopped and asked yourself, what is this moment trying to teach me? Instead of brushing it off, what if you treated it as a moment of reflection, a reminder to be present? How much more aligned would your life feel if you trusted the patterns instead of resisting them? This isn't just about superstition, it's about awareness. It's about being open to the fact that life is not as random as we think. If you start noticing repeating numbers, don't just ignore them. Take a moment. Pay attention to what's happening around you. What are you thinking about? What emotions are surfacing? What decisions are you struggling with? The numbers are not the message itself. They are signposts, pointing you towards something deeper. Let's go even further. If numbers hold meaning, can we use them intentionally? Can we align ourselves with their energy to create change in our lives? Many spiritual traditions believe that by working with specific numbers, whether through meditation, visualization, or even the way we structure our actions, we can tune ourselves to certain frequencies. Some people use numerology to determine the best times to make decisions. Others write down certain numbers to reinforce their intentions. But whether or not you believe in these practices, one thing is undeniable. The more you pay attention to patterns, the more you begin to notice them everywhere, and when you do, your perception of reality shifts. There comes a moment when you can no longer see the world as you once did. When you realize that life has been speaking to you all along, but you were too distracted to listen, and once you recognize this, you can't go back. You start to notice synchronicities everywhere. You begin to trust your intuition more. You stop dismissing what your heart already knows. So let me ask you, what if the numbers you keep seeing are not just coincidences, but a wake-up call? What if they are trying to shake you out of your routine, to wake you up to a bigger reality? What if the universe has been speaking to you all along, but you've been too lost in distractions to hear it? Most people will hear this and dismiss it. They will go back to their routines, ignoring the signs, pretending that life is just a series of meaningless coincidences. But a few, just a few, will listen. They will start paying attention. They will begin to see the hidden structure beneath the chaos. They will start aligning themselves with something greater. Once you begin to notice the patterns, you can never go back to seeing life the same way. Numbers are everywhere, on clocks, receipts, addresses, phone numbers, even in the timing of events. What once seemed random now feels intentional, as if reality itself is trying to communicate with you. The question is, will you listen? Most people won't. Most people will dismiss what they see, choosing instead to believe that life is purely mechanical, that everything happens by chance, that there is no deeper structure to their experiences. But the greatest minds in history, philosophers, mystics, scientists, knew better. They understood that patterns are the very essence of reality. If you've made it this far, it means something inside you is already awakening. You wouldn't still be here if you didn't feel some kind of pull toward this knowledge. So let's take this even further. If numbers are signals, then what are they guiding you toward? What is the purpose of these signs? Are they simply there to make you aware, or are they pushing you toward action? Let's break this down logically. If numbers appear at key moments in your life, then they are either meaningless coincidences or they are indicators of alignment, moments when your personal energy is synchronized with something larger than yourself. If they are indicators of alignment, then that means you have the ability to tune into the flow of life more consciously. And if that's true, then it also means that every time you ignore these signals, you are choosing to remain blind to a deeper reality. Think about this. How often have you had intuitive nudges that you ignored, only to later regret it? Maybe you felt an urge to call someone, but you didn't and later found out they needed to hear from you. Maybe you hesitated on making a decision, even though something inside you screamed that it was the right choice, and later you realized you missed an opportunity. Intuition and synchronicity go hand in hand. They are both ways the universe nudges you toward your highest path. But because we are conditioned to value logic over intuition, most people ignore these nudges until it's too late. What if repeating numbers are a form of pattern recognition training? A way for the universe to sharpen your awareness. The more you acknowledge them, the more attuned you become to these hidden currents of reality. And once you are attuned, you begin to move differently in the world. You start making decisions not just based on logic, but on alignment. You start trusting the flow of life instead of resisting it. And when you do that, something incredible happens. Life begins to feel effortless. The right people show up at the right time. Opportunities unfold in ways you never expected. Obstacles that once seemed insurmountable dissolve. Now, here's where things get even more interesting. If numbers are signals, then it means they are not passive, they are interactive. It means you don't just observe them, you can work with them. Ancient civilizations understood this. That's why they built their temples and sacred sites according to precise numerical alignments. That's why numerology has existed for thousands of years. That's why Tesla was obsessed with 3, 6, and 9. These numbers are not just symbols, they are keys. Let's talk about manifestation. You've probably heard people say that thoughts create reality. But have you ever wondered why some people seem to manifest things effortlessly while others struggle? The answer lies in vibrational alignment. If your thoughts, actions, and emotions are aligned with a certain frequency, then reality responds accordingly. And guess what? Numbers are frequencies. So what happens if you start consciously working with the numbers you see? What happens if, instead of just noticing them, you use them as anchors for intention? Let's say you keep seeing 888, the number of abundance. Instead of just acknowledging it, what if you took it as a direct sign to shift your mindset toward abundance? What if you aligned your actions with that energy by making bold financial decisions, by letting go of scarcity thinking, by stepping into a mindset of generosity and expansion? Would you start to see different results? Or let's say you keep seeing 555, a number of change. Instead of fearing change, what if you embraced it? What if you initiated the transformation instead of waiting for it to happen to you? What if instead of resisting the shifts in your life, you leaned into them, trusting that the universe was guiding you towards something better? This is where the real power of numbers comes in. They are not just signs, they are invitations, they are calls to action, they are signals that it's time to step into a new way of being. But the choice is always yours. You can ignore them, dismiss them as coincidences, continue living the way you always have, or you can wake up. You can start listening, you can start aligning, and once you do, the way you experience reality will never be the same. But let's go one step further. If numbers are guiding you, then that means your entire life, every experience, every person you meet, every challenge you face, is part of a bigger equation. It means that nothing is random. It means that even the struggles you've faced have been leading you somewhere. But most people never see the full picture because they're too focused on individual moments. They get stuck in fear, doubt, and hesitation instead of seeing the larger design at play. So let me ask you, What if every challenge you faced was actually preparing you for something greater? What if everything you thought was a setback was actually part of a sequence leading you exactly where you need to be? What if the numbers you've been seeing are not just about the present moment, but about your entire destiny unfolding? This is where most people hesitate, because if that's true, then it means you are responsible for your own awareness. It means you can no longer play the victim to life's randomness. It means you have to wake up and participate in your own evolution. And that's terrifying for some people, because it's easier to believe that life is random than to accept that you are in control of how you respond to it. But if you've made it this far, you are not most people. Something inside you already knows the truth. You wouldn't still be here if you weren't meant to hear this. So now the choice is yours. Will you go back to sleep, dismissing the patterns, pretending that none of this matters, or will you start paying attention? Will you start acting on the signs instead of just noticing them? Will you start trusting that life is constantly guiding you, if only you have the courage to listen? Because here's the final truth. The universe is always speaking. The question is, are you willing to hear it?